out.
Can't reverse polarity.
No, no. There's this one's fun. You should have your surplus parts in a box, labeled on a shelf, a pallet rack, but real people like me put them in the corner out back. You know, I've got a pile on a pallet of each leftover part from each project truck. If I cut the frame and there's something unique, I keep the back. If it's hubs I changed, I keep the ones I had. Tires and wheels line, there's another row of 5 holes right there, which I didn't want to sell, and it took me several years to gather. They're on this beautiful orange and cream 54 Kenworth out in the building, kind of right a couple of rows over from ours. That truck is immaculate and was the only thing he was missing. It had brand new 24 5s. It just didn't have the look. We got him new tires, and he had the wheels polished by his guy, but then we mounted them, and he didn't pick them up till last Thursday, and they're here on it now. So let's see here. Decorations, I got some International 345 valve covers up there on the wall around the clock. Those engines aren't worth anything. People take them out all the time and put whatever they put under the hood. So I scrapped a few that were bad, and they make neat decorations. There's that semaphore. This is an old, I forget what the fire extinguisher is called, but it had 2 dangerous chemicals in it. You mixed it up and it would shoot out tetraphene or something, tetrachloride. I forget what it is, but it's cool. I had that. Somebody gave it to me. They're brass. But then that West Coaster had an IH brass tetrachloride one in it. I think that's what they're called. So, of course, I'm going to carry the IH one in the truck, not the unmarked one. Cool sign, high value used trucks. That was a slogan IH had back in the late 60s. Yep. That was a reproduction decal. There's the bottom picture. That's what my little scheme of reality extra parts looks like from a truck. It's just dusty pile of junk that should be thrown out. But it came off there if you modified something like a battery tray or whatever. It's nice to keep that little stuff. It might help somebody else out. If you don't use it, after a few years, somebody comes to you and wants it. Oh, I got that. And then the desk and table, that was stuff we made for the home office in Kansas City. And that's the secretary coming in to it and seeing it for the first time. But that's an R190 International front clip. And there's 4 trucks there to make that. That old white one that was with the pumpkins at the beginning, we used the hood, the grill surround from it, chrome bars from a fire truck we had. New old stock fiberglass fenders were pretty rare. Brand new old stock. I cut them up to make a desk. I mean, it's sort of criminal, but it's cool. It's very cool. Working lights, computer monitors, pull out. That just, when you walk into ATHS, that's what you see. And then the table was the back end off of our step deck, aluminum step deck that we cut off. What time is it here? Yeah, we started about 10 minutes late, so we'd be all right. When should you upgrade? I mean, everybody wants to gut the whole thing out and start over, but you don't need to a lot of times. You can work on it as you go. That pile of wiring is at Super Scout Specialist in Enon, Ohio. And every truck they get in there, that they pull it apart for parts, doors, hoods, whatever, they pull the harness out of it. And you can go there and look for a good harness, or they have a pile of random junk like that. That pile is like the size of a smart car. It's huge. But if you need a connector, a terminal, or something you can't buy, some weird thing, jump in there. I mean, but anyway, the old stuff worked. Yeah, it wasn't up to date. It wasn't great. It worked. So if it's not broken, again, with the timeline of the restoration, maybe you can put something on the road and enjoy it without totally ripping it out. Because of the level, what level do you want? If you want it perfect under the dash, fix it. Otherwise, enjoy it. So you won't get over your head. No Scotch locks, wire nuts, butt connectors, that stuff. Don't even touch it unless you're on the side of the road. Broke down. It's evil. Because you put that thing on there and you say, I'll put something better on it when I really get back. You never do. Just don't use it. It doesn't last. Scotch locks are the worst, probably. Exposed terminal blocks. Most of these old trucks, it doesn't matter if it's a pickup or a big truck, you open the hood and there's a row of studs. That's the dumbest thing they ever came up with. If in service back in those days, how long did that last before you couldn't get those nuts off of there? And now when they're old, they always snap off. They're rusted up. But, so you put a junction box on there and make it all pretty and sealed up. But you don't really need to. It's a hobby truck. A new exposed terminal block will work great for what we're doing. And it's original. You just spray some grease, fluid film on there, whatever. Or you could upgrade it. But the reality is, a hobby, that's a TranStar. That's what that TranStar looked like. They have that block on the firewall and one more on each side of the hood up by the grill, right where the tire throws stuff on it. But that was acceptable and clear into the middle 80s when we came out with sealed connectors. WeatherPack, Delphi, O-ring connectors. Which, so on the top right's a regular junction box. We're all familiar with those, I would say. So that's kind of a middle step above, because inside it's still a ring terminal junction. But on the bottom right, there's a pile of 3 bus brand generic fuse boxes with an O-ring lid, O-ring seals in the back of every wire, and then a foot of blunt cut wire coming out. You don't have to build the terminals. You don't have to try to crimp all. You buy them. You can mount them under the dash. That's probably a $100 block. And then with a good heat shrink butt connector, you can connect your harnesses to that and get rid of all your glass fuses and such. Easy upgrade, kind of expensive, but it's really foolproof, same as a new car would have. You're just adding that one connection at the end of the blunt wire. And that is the under dash harness of the West Coaster. Bundle that big around, a 12 gauge heavy wires, fabric jacketed from the 50s. And some of it was bad, so we had to cut out that piece there. Massive. You don't need wires like that if you convert things to LED and upgrade, like that lamp housing. That's one of the directional turn signals with the visor and the little arrow. 20 minutes, you can put an LED bulb in there and add a ground wire so that you can fit 2 little wires out the stud instead of the one big one you don't need anymore. So now you can ground it to the harness and not worry about those ground issues. It's just an easy upgrade. This is a big one. It's a conversation. Everybody wants to paint their truck. I'm getting more towards the wraps because it's sometimes cheaper and easier. It does. It can do a lot of things. Our semi out here that's a 2019, we kind of made it look old with a retro international paint scheme. That's a wrap. It's a red tractor with a white wrap. That truck is painted now. This was a rendering that Flatbed Red did. You can pay her like, I don't know, it's 40 or 60 bucks or something. You send a picture of your truck to her, and she will change the colors. You tell her what paint schemes you want to see it in, because you don't know maybe, do I want a Seminole on my Kenworth? Do I want a Sunrise? Or whatever it is that I want. But then what color do I want it in? So that's like, yeah, that was her rendering. I did one with my screenwriting with my pencil. I just drew it on my phone how I wanted it to look, and then sent her a picture of somebody's pretty truck and said, make it look like that. So then that was it. I knew that's how I would paint that truck. But the wrap can be cheaper if you're not sure what color you want. If you want to change it later, you can do a full wrap. You can do stripes. You could do your logo in there. There's a lot of things. It's sometimes frowned upon by purists, but my wrap guy's good, and you don't know unless I told you. And I've had body guys tell me that. They don't know until I told them.
So you have, I said patina, but if you have an original paint that's pretty good, you want to preserve that, that wrap will preserve that.
It will preserve that for sure too. The thing it doesn't do is it doesn't hide rock chips, scratches, or nicks. They show up just like they did if you painted it, because it's just like when it snows on the ground. It doesn't fill the ditch in. There's still a ditch. It's just got the snow in it. It will not hide. Sometimes it makes that stuff more visible. But it's easy to remove too. Resale value, you know. If you make it too unique to yourself, are you going to be able to sell it? You know, if you have somebody come and hand letter paint, which is a dying art, hand paint your logo on the door and then go to sell it, that can be a detraction. Whereas a vinyl decal or something, you can just peel it right off.
You have pinstriping in your built into the wrap.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a good wrap guy though to do some of that two-tone stuff. It's much easier to do a full vehicle coverage than it is the two-tone. But if you find the guy, he'll do it.
Will the wrap come off without pulling the paint off?
It will if the paint was, so two things. Good vinyl stays on when it's supposed to and comes off easy. Doesn't leave the glue, not crappy little stickers your kids play with where it peels in half. Also, you have to peel it 180 degrees. If you lift it 90 degrees, it could, but going backwards and then you warm it up with a heat gun, a hair dryer, even a sunny day.
You've never had any problems?
The only paint I've ever lifted was paint that was repainted on an improper prep. They didn't sand it. Maybe it was over some Bondo. Maybe they spot painted an area that you didn't even know had Bondo, and they got it on the glossy paint around there because they didn't sand that part. I mean, original paint, no. I've never had it pull original paint or good applied later on paint that wasn't original. I would probably have the guy that put the wrap on take it off if it was extensive. I pretty much only will pull off door decals and stuff like that. I've never actually taken off a full wrap. I just let them do that. Well, those were still just stripes, and that was a lot of work.
Are there other parts on that truck that they can wrap besides the cab?
Oh yeah,
Tractor?
oh yeah. One of the big ones right now is people like the blacked out look on their pickup truck. You go to the new dealers, you want a pickup and you want the black edition. Well, we don't have one, or it costs this much more. Buy the regular one, take it to a wrap guy. He can flat black wrap the grill, the mirrors, the bumper for hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. So, yeah, that's a great.
Do a frame?
Nah,
You're not gonna
eh.
or something. That's what I mean on a truck like that.
Right, a visor, a roof cap, if you want like the white roof look with the visor, you know, that kind of stuff. You can break it apart. That our Ram is aluminum bed. There's no paint on that bed. The cab came white. So the red stripes are a wrap, the logo is its own vinyl, and then the bed is white and red vinyl wrap. You don't know that. You go out and look at that truck in the campground, it's a challenge. This truck was a wrap, red truck, white wrap. That one we painted. It's old. For some reason to me, I just felt like the challenge of it and the age of it, and I knew I would not change that truck, deserved paint. It was a lot of work. I had like 9 hours just taping and masking stuff. And then this other one, the Halls up in Oregon, I threw that in there for them because they sat through this last year in Reno. They're a logging company. They bought a brand new T800 in the 80s or 90s. And Kenworth gave them these coloring books, black and white. They were pages, all the same Rainier paint scheme that you could color yourself and turn back in and say, this is what I want. And they would paint. Now, isn't that cool? And then your kids could play with it too, but this was the dad did this himself to figure out what he wanted. And there's a bunch more. See, it says +7. That is just like 4 pages of notebook page size of Rainier paint schemes. the TransStar here of ours, this was the paint scheme I wanted. I got a sales brochure from the 70s there, early 70s, because they didn't offer near as many as they did later. And you can barely see on the right-hand side, there's just a road. Those are all the paint schemes. But then there's the different colors. But how are you going to find out where that all goes? This is an original paint truck that I found on Facebook at one of our shows, at a chapter show. And you start looking at, they had taken a few pictures of it. Well, where does it look like compared to the turn signal? And where does it land compared to the pop-out cowl vents? And where does it land compared to the door handle? And you get a pencil and start drawing it and everything. It takes a while. And then the West Coaster, that was sort of just looking at pictures and playing with tape. That's really not an international paint scheme. It's a West Coast paint scheme. It's found on all kinds of trucks. So just play with it a little bit. And if you're going to have it wrapped, you could still tape it out and then take it to the wrap guy and say, put it between the tape. Whoops. More of that. You can see the process of a two-tone. Being around closer to the East Coast in New England, they actually paint some trucks like that with that box look. They box all the panels and pinstripe them all out. You see around New York and New Jersey, like tow trucks and stuff. But anyway, that's just all the amount of masking and taping for a two-tone job. Steel versus aluminum. We specialize in our flatbed upfitting business. We would prefer to sell you aluminum flatbed. They last forever in the Midwest where we have salt. And but it's lighter. You can work it easier. Yeah, you have to have specialized equipment and skills to weld it. That's usually people's biggest drawback, I guess, or hindrance. But I've used aluminum chunks and scraps and bits for all kinds of stuff. Antenna mounts, taillight brackets, you name it. A piece of aluminum angle iron, you drill some holes in it in 5 seconds and bolt it under your cross member, and you can hang taillights on a tractor and not have to paint it by rusting. It's just super handy. If you do paint it, you'd never know it wasn't steel. So that's why I mentioned it, brackets, add-on components. Like you need a CB bracket mount or something in your dash. It's very easy to bend and form and play with the aluminum versus steel. Flatbeds, you know, that's our world. So a lot of guys, save that one for a second. So here, mud flat brackets. That's every job we turn out gets aluminum mud flat brackets. Even that one, that's a steel bed. Still easier. There's a power pole bracket on the back of one of our tractors, light plug brackets, you know. It's right beside a factory aluminum bracket. There's no reason to paint it. It's done. This bracket, though, I made out of steel for air lines and the light plug because I needed to weld some fittings in there for air. They're going to support a lot of strain off the pogo stick. That's that semaphore bracket. It's steel. But on the beds, that's a 62 B170 we had. We put 2 different beds on it and just drove it to car shows and stuff. The aluminum beds are really cool on your daily working truck. They're really cool on an antique truck. But it rides pretty bad with a 500-pound aluminum bed on it. And if you're just going to take it to shows, it's not going to be out in the weather and stuff, maybe the steel bed's better for you. It puts some weight on there at least. And then the resources for your parts, friends, local chapters, social media, you know, word of mouth is always the friend of a small business or trying to find something. But Facebook is really like the extended modern version of word of mouth, and I've solved a lot of problems on there. Somebody gets wind of what you're doing and, oh, I have 1 wheel. Okay, let's get the wheel. You know, I need 12, but 1 will get me closer to 12. Don't wait till you find 12. It's probably never going to happen. That kind of thing. If you call the home office in Kansas City, there's the library there. And aside from this week, And the weeks right before the convention, Courtney is really good about looking up something. She'll scan it to you and email it to you. Service manual, sales literature. There's a ton of stuff in that library. And of course, you could go there yourself if you wanted to look at it. Wheels of Time. You can always post an ad in the back of Wheels of Time for sale or wanted. That has shrunk. Darren just left. The guy that was back there, he's the editor of the Wheels of Time, the one that was asking questions. But yeah, you can want or for sale in there. And then there's a thing about the library. That's Courtney in the top right. She's also the truck registration lady in the trailer. So if you brought a truck to here, you probably met her out there. She does the job of 4 people, I think, 6 maybe. As the economy has impacted everybody, you may have heard, there are some people that no longer work at the ATHS. There's only 5 people that work there. Everybody else is a volunteer. It's not like a shiny palace or something some people will say. There's 5 people, and he does the job of like 3 or 4 that left. Including truck reg, which isn't her thing. She's a librarian. But this picture here, over here, is original international West Coaster sales literature that I found. $20 from a collector that tells all the original specs. Right there's a semaphore signal in that picture in California at a livestock yard where that truck lived, and that's not my truck, but it's just my truck. So I have photo evidence of how it would be, how it looked. It's the same model of semaphores because there's like 3 brands of them. And then this is the expanded view of that same picture. It's just super cool. You get stuff like that. It really helps you maybe carry a copy in your truck. You go to a car show and set it out there. People like looking at that stuff. But it helps you figure out how it did look, including the wheels and the tires, the way the bumper is. It's just super neat. This is so these are the chapters I usually involved with at home. Ohio has more than 2, but those are the 2 that I'm most involved with. And then this is the home office in Kansas City. They built that a couple years ago. Their chapter donated old LCF Chevy. It makes a cool display. It was a grain truck, and they cut the frame out of it and set the cab on the ground, set the bed on the ground. It's there all the time. That's actually a really nice truck for that purpose. Probably could have been put on the road, but who knows? It's history. I don't know. But yeah, thanks for coming. I don't know if you have any questions. We do not have